Hello friends, good afternoon everyone. And Suzy ma'am, welcome to you. Welcome to the Mindful Living community. We are honored to have you join us today on the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima. Just like to introduce you to the community. We started this community in May 2020, and in about 2 months' time, we have grown to be over 200 people who are very passionate about learning and practicing mindfulness. Since we started 2 months back, we have organized more than 20 sessions on different aspects of mindfulness meditation. Friends, Suzy ma'am has a very busy practice as an emotional well-being and mental health coach, and she has specially cleared her calendar to join us today. She is also an acclaimed author of a best-selling book, Seven Karma Codes, Heal the Storm Within. Prior to starting out as a coach and healer, she had an active career spanning nearly 2 decades in the advertising industry. I had the opportunity of meeting and interacting with her first time at the Business World Wellbeing Summit, where she was a speaker. And on that day, she said some things which I felt were just what I needed to hear at that stage in my life. And I hope today you also get to hear some messages which may be just right for you. Without further ado, I request Suzy ma'am to share with us about the 7 karma codes that can help us break free. Please note that we will be taking questions towards the end of the session. So please make a note of your all questions, and then we will open the session for question answers towards the end. Welcome, Suzy ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ashish, for having me here. I feel really honored to be with all of you and your community today. So there is a conversation that all of us avoid like plague through our lives. And that is the conversation about death. And somehow I believe very deeply that by contemplating or introspecting about death, we are better able to value the life that we lead. I think also the pandemic has really made this conversation alive, and I am going to actually use the opportunity today to talk about the 7 karma codes that can help us value our lives much more, focus on how we want to live each day, and become more fearless about death. Interestingly enough, this book, the seed for it, was also born around an experience of death. My family and I, we were in a terrible car crash about 2 decades ago. And my 6-year-old daughter was in that crash. She had a really powerful experience, which I learned of many, many years later when she was 18 and I was doing a regression session for her. And I realized that she had actually, with her very young and pure mind and with the third eye open, had actually seen my soul leave the body and move into the afterlife. And for her, it was like Mama had died. So it created the trauma and the fear of separation in her mind. And for many months and years later, she kept asking me the question, Mama, who's going to be there for me when Papa and you die? Who's going to guide me? Who's going to show me the path? Who's going to tell me how to live my life? And I think that question really haunted me quite deeply. And when the time was right, because there is always a right timing for everything, I was given this flash from within my mind that this is the time to start writing the book. My daughter was 17 then. She was in the hospital and she was down with a dengue attack in the ICU. I came back one evening from the hospital and I had this flash, start writing the book. And that evening itself, I started penning the book down. This book is dedicated not just to my child, but to every child on the planet and every human on the planet, because I feel it has come from something beyond me. And so I'm really happy and glad that I'm able to share these insights with you today. The other interesting thing is that several times before, since the last 3 years when this book was published, people have asked me to talk about these 7 codes, and I didn't feel the time was right. But when Ashish reached out to me the other day, there was a spontaneous feeling that this is the right time to feel, because the pandemic has brought the hidden suffering in so many people to the surface. And I think they are ready to embrace these codes at a collective level. So thank you for being with us today. And I hope you receive something from our sharing going forward today. So what is karma? At a very simple level, karma is the law of reciprocity. What you sow, you reap. But for many people, karma translates into punishment for sins. Not for the awakened mind. The awakened mind knows that karma is the harvest of conscious choices that they have made through life. And so the very first karma code, the Suvasana code, is about the karma of waking up. All of life, all of our suffering in life is designed to wake us up. Every time we have a disease or we have some sort of brutal encounter with life, a loss of a job, some other loss of money, loss of anything that we value, we become really hurt. We start blaming our destiny. We start blaming ourselves. And we go into this dark vortex of grief and negativity. But we have to understand that suffering is designed to wake us up. It is a loving call from the universe. It is a loving call from our higher mind to remind us that we have got to involved with the routine, mechanical way of living, and we have forgotten our purpose for why we are here. So we need to remember that purpose. All of life, any form of life, comprises of 3 vibrational qualities, the 3 gunas. There is tamas, which is dark, heavy, inert. There is rajas, which is active and energetic. And there is sattva, which is pure, tranquil, and calm. And the purpose of life is to increase our sattva, the degree of purity in our soul consciousness, and to reduce the tamas in us. Really meaning moving from darkness to life as we go through our experience of life itself. Is there a problem with the voice? Ashish, are you experiencing a problem with the voice?
I can hear you clearly, ma'am. Let's
All
also
right.
check with the audience.
Yes, please.
No, so there is some feedback that voice is cracking, but others are saying it's clear. So I can,
Okay.
but it's okay, I think.
Is this any better?
Yeah, better. This is
No,
better. Yeah.
Okay.
You are absolutely clearly audible. You are clearly audible.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So I was talking about the 3 gunas, the rajas, the sattva, and the tamas. And the purpose of all life is to move from darkness to light, to decrease the quantum of tamas in us, and to increase the quantum of purity or sattva. Now, what happens is that when we encounter any suffering in our life, we get so identified with the suffering. We get into the blaming, we get into the feeling miserable about it, that we actually forget that this is the best and most powerful opportunity for me to wake up. Because it's important to remember that it's only when we are facing fear can we build courage in us. It is only when we are faced with great suffering in our life that we can wake up at the soul level and remember, why did I incarnate on the planet? Why am I here? What is my greater purpose in life? And so Can we use during periods of great suffering? Can we use the power of prayer? Can we use the power of gratitude to be able to engage with that suffering in a way to soften my soul, in a way to increase the sattvic qualities in my soul, rather than responding in the mechanical way of becoming broken, despondent, grieving, being miserable and unhappy, which is only going to amplify the darkness in my soul. So that is the question that the first karma code, the Suvasana code, is asking us. Suvasana, the term itself, talks about the force of powerful positive tendencies. Am I using my suffering to increase the force of my powerful tendencies for building my tolerance, for building forbearance, for building patience in me, for building fortitude? Or am I losing myself to negativity? That is what the first karma code asks of us. And I think that's an active choice that the awakened soul needs to make. Am I choosing to wake up, or am I choosing to remain a victim of life? This then leads us to the second code, which is the Homa code. When we enter into life, we know that every soul comes with a quantum of three kinds of karma. There is the Sanchita karma, which is the sum total of the storehouse of all of past karmic records. And it's too much for any soul to bring into any one single incarnation and hope to settle the record, or to burn all of that karma, because it would be overwhelming. It would create a huge amount of pain and grief and complexity. So it brings only a chosen quantum of karma to redeem, to burn into a positive life, and to enjoy also. It is both positive karma and negative karma. That quantum which you are going to address in this lifetime is your prarabdha. So whatever you are experiencing right now, if you have been born into comfort, or if you are experiencing loving relationships, those are the fruits of your positive past deeds. Even the fact that you are sitting and participating in this conversation on karma today is the fruit of positive past deeds, because only if we have made and held an aspiration for the truth can we be engaging in conversations about the truth today. So the prarabdha is what I'm experiencing in my life today. At the end of this life, wherever my math is, how much tamas I've added, how much sattva I have added, whatever that is at the moment of death is going to be my net balance, or my agami karma, which I am going to carry forward. And like I mentioned in the previous code, the objective of life is to exit life having burnt karma. So my net balance of poor karma should be less, and positive karma should be more. That should be the objective. How we deal with our suffering. The second karma, the Homa code, talks about, can we surrender our suffering? How do we deal with our suffering is going to determine whether we're going to increase tamas or whether we're going to increase sattva. So if I do deep inner work through my life, if every time that I'm facing a difficulty or a challenge, every time I have a breakdown with someone, I'm angry at someone, I am having difficulties in my life, I'm feeling depressed, I'm going through the torment of my inner emotions, if I am going to responsibly work with those emotions and process those emotions in a responsible way, where I don't react and cause damage to others, cause damage to myself, then I'm reducing my poor karma. But if I'm going to be reactive in nature, then I'm only going to increase the tamas inside of me, and that is detrimental to my purpose. And so, am I doing the work to process my difficult emotions, or am I repressing them? Am I running away from my difficult emotions? We are all conditioned to actually do that, but we need to retrain ourselves to work with difficult emotions. We need to work with all of the false beliefs that we have in our minds that are a result of the coping mechanisms maybe we developed as children to escape pain. There may be some family beliefs, there may be transgenerational beliefs about which are not really true. So it's important for us to mine all these false beliefs, work with them, remove them, because as the Patanjali Yoga says, that it is the distortions of the mind that create all suffering. Am I actively doing that work with my emotions and my beliefs is going to determine how I respond to my suffering. Can I give up the sad story of my pain? Can I stop being a victim? Can I become empowered to do the inner work and actually through that process build my vulnerability, build my humility, and build my aspiration and desire to know the truth about myself and all things in life. And I'd like to mention that no, this is not a very simple exercise. It takes years of practice. And for the benefit of humanity, for all people, I have put a lot of these processes and methods and how to work with your emotions, etc., onto my YouTube channel, the Suzy Singh YouTube channel. Please feel free, if you feel motivated or inspired to actually work with your emotional processing, you can listen to those videos and you can start working with your emotional and mental states from today itself so that you can feel more response able when you're going through difficult times, rather than simply reacting from your primal brain, which all of us, we react mostly because of the primitive brain. And we have three brains. So there is the reptilian brain, which is designed to protect us. It's a survival mind, and we respond from there. But we also have the second brain, which is the mammalian or emotional brain, which usually gets hijacked. And the third brain, which is the seat of human potential, which is the prefrontal cortex. It is here where the third eye is. This creates, this contains all of our godlike qualities of compassion, of tolerance, of love, of sharing, of empathy. And our objective in life is to really expand this third brain. So I would urge you all to give in to the summons of the second karma code, which is burn your dark emotions through that sacred homa, perform that homa with your breath, and you can learn how to do it by watching the videos. This then brings me to the third karma code, which is the Swadharma code. This is the karma of finding and spreading happiness and joy through our talents and our skills. Now, how do we use the Rajasic quality, the active energetic quality? Do we use it to increase sattva, or do we use it to increase atamas is the question this particular code addresses. Whenever we align our work that we do every day, when we align it with the purpose that our soul has entered this life into, with our passions, with our inherent tendencies, with our basic quality, our nature, our swabhava, then we experience a great deal of joy, fulfillment, and we spread that joy to others because we are happy within us. The wellspring of joy is active and flowing through us. Let me give you an example here. We have all heard some of Beethoven's music. We know he was almost dead, and yet he was almost deaf. And yet he created the kind of music that for eons has brought so much peace, joy, enjoyment, pleasure, tranquility to so many people. In more recent times, I can think of at least two people who I hold in very dear regard. The first one is the shame and vulnerability researcher, Brené Brown. She has used her work, which she's extremely passionate about, to do some path-breaking research and findings on human experience of shame and building courage and all of these, building these virtues and overcoming these negative emotions, which has helped millions of people across the globe. And you can see that her work truly fulfills her. and it brings so much benefit to the others. So the question is, are we doing the work that brings us joy and that is of value to others? There is also Dr. Gabor Mate. He is an ADHD and a de-addiction expert. He himself suffered from ADHD, but he used his pain like a wounded healer, and he's brought relief to uncountable number of people, addicts who were homeless, who had no one who could, support them. He's helped them, and he has brought so much understanding of addiction and its causes to people, to families, and it has really helped enormous number of people. So the question that this code begs of us is the work that we wake up to every morning. Are we really and truly enjoying that work, or do we do that work only for the money? So many of us are engaged in professions or doing jobs which we do only because it fetches us that salary at the end of the month. But what is the quality of our experience? Are we in that work being joyful? Are we being harmonious with our colleagues? Are we being nice to people? Are we building our sattvic tendencies, or are we being irritated, angry, resentful, remorseful, angry, upset all the time because we hate our job? So I think it's important for us to re-examine and re-look at our definition of success. Does success mean to me only a job that fetches me great money, good title, good designation, good network, good social optics, fame, name, but it doesn't fulfill me? If that is the case, that I hate my job, but I do it only for these reasons, then perhaps we need to re-examine what we are doing, because we are not using our talents and our skills to build our sattvic qualities. We are using it to increase our tamas. Perhaps we also need to examine the definition of success itself. Can success be measured in the currency of personal fulfillment, joy, happiness? Or should it purely be measured in net worth and bank balances? That is the question that the third code begs us to address. And now we arrive at a most important code, the fourth code, Anubhava code, which is the karma of redemption and learning in relationships. The soul, before it incarnates, chooses its family of birth and the context, depending upon various factors, what karma it needs to burn in that life, what it needs to learn, and how it can be elevated at the end of that incarnation. So your parents, your siblings, the person you're going to marry, the kids you're going to have, these are people that we have past karma with, that we need to settle accounts with. And please note, it's not settle scores with, but settle accounts with, because there may be a lot of loving accounts and there may be some other accounts which are unloving accounts, and we need to bring our love to them. So it is not punitive. Please, I'd like to repeat this over and over again. Karma is not punishment. Karma is an opportunity to learn. There are 4 reasons why we will choose to be related, or why we will choose to have certain people in our life presently in our prarabdha. First reason is, of course, redemption of karma. We may have hurt some people because we weren't sensitized to how our treatment of them was landing for them. And so we are here to become sensitive to their feelings, sensitive and correct those things, bring them some degree of calm and soothing through our understanding. And that will depend upon how awakened we are and what choices we make. Do we end up hurting them even more? Do we end up being hurt by them? Or are we able to bring closure and completion of that karma? The second reason is unfinished business. There may be many lives where the life has been abruptly aborted for some reason. It's come to an end and we weren't able to complete whatever we had set out as a context for that life or the syllabus for that life. And we are here to continue that unfinished business. The third is that we may want to learn, grow, evolve, or become a teacher to someone who is in our life presently. And of course, the fourth is that there is group karma or family karma that we are part of, engaged in from previous lifetimes, and we now have to participate and bring closure to that group karma. So people who are difficult challenges in this lifetime, people who we find difficult to deal with, they are in fact our greatest teachers. They are also, that relationship holds the greatest potential for the most accelerated burning of karma. And which is why I would say, identify that one relationship in your life that is really, really hard, and try and not resist the difficulties that are arising there, but willfully and with strength, with courage, willing to do the hard thing, willing to do the right thing, the useful thing. Please engage in that relationship with compassion, because it will help you greatly and it will help that person greatly. And the minute that that past karma is resolved, you will actually transform the quality of that relationship. Usually what happens is that we resist, we create more relationship, we create more ugliness and angst in that relationship, and that karma never gets resolved, and so that relationship never improves. But if we are willing to be in a state of surrender and acceptance and choose and reaffirm to ourselves and pray for strength, God, help me do the useful thing. Help me to be compassionate in this relationship. Trust me, you will be able to see that relationship transform in this very life, and it will seem like a miracle to you. So please, please do it. There are 3 errors that we usually make in these relationships, and I'm just going to very briefly mention them. We end up being very judgmental, and that judgment then creates a feeling of superiority or inferiority, which does not allow you to be loving anymore. If you're feeling superior in that relationship, then it'll lead to ego inflation. And again, tamas is activated. If you're feeling inferior, then the inadequacy, the feeling of I'll never be good enough, is going to keep you from setting right boundaries or strong boundaries, and you will not be able to do right by your own self. So judgment, try and be mindful that you don't judge people, particularly in your difficult relationships. The second is criticism. Criticism totally breaks the other person down. It shames them. It impacts negatively their sense of worthiness and self-esteem. And so instead of criticism, I think we need to find more loving ways of engaging with those people. If nothing else, I suggest that we stop criticizing. I always say, if you can't build somebody up, don't pull them down. And so there's criticism, there's judgment, and there is constant complaining or blaming. Blame immediately activates fight or flight, which is your primal response. It is your protection response. And then the possibility of any dialogue or conversation in that relationship is over. So please avoid these 3 errors. And what I suggest that you actually do is to build a strong relationship or an enduring relationship is practice tact. T-A-C-T. Can you practice tact? Tact is transparency. So can you try and be transparent? Very often in difficult or challenging relationships, we are not entirely transparent. We say some things and we keep some things to ourselves, or we do not express openly what our ask or our need in that relationship is, and therefore that relationship suffers. So please be transparent, ask freely for your needs to be met, and be there for them. The second thing of the tact is A, which is act lovingly. Love is all about, or relationship strength is built on little acts of service. So How can you be there for the people who you are having a difficult equation with, or the people that you actually want to strengthen your bonds with? The third is communication. See, all relationships are built and strengthened through communication. So keep the dialogue open, keep talking. That's the only way you will have a better understanding and appreciation of each other. And the last T is build trust. Just because you've had a difficult experience once, very often we just stop trusting the other person, and that leads to the detriment of the relationship. So please build trust repeatedly. That is what vulnerability is all about. That even though you know you might be hurt, you're willing to be wounded repeatedly in order to fully show up in a relationship. So that is what the karma of learning in relationships and redeeming our past karmas in relationship urges us to do. And let's avoid the 3 errors, and let's follow the principle of tact, TACT, to strengthen our relationships. The 5th karma is Dana code, and it is the karma of building empathy through generosity. The human mind is wired for connection. But unfortunately, what happens in our childhood traumas, they rewire that brain for protection, which creates the illusion of separation, of you versus me. Now, the best way of reversing this illusion, the sense of separation, is through the heartfelt practice of generosity. Because when I am being generous in an authentic way, then I am wanting to alleviate your pain. I am willing to feel your suffering, and I want to do good by you. What that does is it reduces our self-absorption, and in turn, it increases our empathy. We curate empathy when we are there for another person's pain. We are building that virtue of empathy in us. The second thing it does is it reduces our busyness from the mechanical nature of existence, and it makes us more human, more compassionate to another person. And the third very important thing is that it reduces our transactionality in relationships. You know, even in our closest relationships, even with our children, with our partners, with our parents, you will find if you're being truly honest with ourselves, there is always a hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda is, I'm doing this for you, what will you do for me? So for example, very often it is said that parents' love is unconditional. But even the parent says, I have done so much for my children. I go to work, I earn money, I'm raising you, I'm paying for your education. Why are you not respecting me? Now, that is an expectation. It is not unconditional. And therefore, when we practice generosity, every time that we can lovingly forgive our child's error and try and be a guide only if he's willing to receive it from us. If he's not willing to receive it from us, still be there for them without running them down or criticizing them. We are then truly building the ability to be unconditional in our relationships. And so this karma of generosity teaches us that love is an echo. You send it out, it comes back to you over a period of time. It's very important to remember when we are practicing this code, not to do it because we want to earn karmic brownie points. A lot of people do that. They do donations, they go and give their time, they volunteer their efforts because they think, I am being good. If that is the hidden intention in our minds, then that is not going to create unconditionality in us. See, the idea is that we are really working with increasing our purity and our sattva. It's not about maintaining the account book, actually. It is more about building virtues, changing the quality of our soul. The idea is to become more like God, built in the image of God. We're reclaiming that lost innocence, which makes us godlike. And that can only happen if that desire comes spontaneously from a very depth. So don't be generous. Don't reach out to help another person if there is some remorse or resentment about it. Don't do it because you think I am forced to do it, it is my duty to do it. But try and do it from that space in your being which wants to do it because it feels the other person's pain and it wants that other person to be happy or to be relieved of that suffering. So we've covered the 5 codes, and we now come to the 6th karma code, which is the karma of belonging. When the soul chooses to incarnate, it separates from God consciousness or that power that be, whatever each one of us may individually want to address it as. And then it enters the mother's womb as a fetus. At birth, it separates from the mother. And then the child grows up and leaves home to go find work, and it separates from the family. Now we can see this entire thing is a process of individuation. And during this entire experience, the individual starts to focus entirely on itself. And the sense of separation becomes quite deep. But that is the point when you want to marry and you want to belong back to something, a family unit, an organization, a cause, a purpose. And we can see that is a natural inclination of the soul to belong. So the 6th code, the Sangha code, urges us to examine what it is that we seek to belong to and calls out to us to actually want to belong to something. The interesting thing here is that very often we believe that we should be included by others. We should be included by our families. We should be given the attention by the organization, by our bosses, by our colleagues and everything else. We lay the responsibility on other people. We do not lay the responsibility on ourselves to belong to something. We expect others will include us. And I'm saying that can we ask ourselves, what is it I want to belong? Like I said, it could be the organization I work for. It could be my family. It could be my neighborhood. It could be some cause that I feel very strongly about. But that sense of belonging is going to strengthen my experience of oneness. It is going to change my individuated behaviors into more constructive social behaviors. It's going to increase my social intelligence. And what it will urge us most specifically to do. For example, am I being competitive or am I being collaborative? If we truly ask ourselves that question, all of us, we are conditioned right through our schooling years to compete. How do we unlearn that? Because we are so given to separation consciousness that it is going to take a lot of unlearning of conditioned behaviors. So can I collaborate instead of competing? How can I overcome my desire to control someone and actually honor their sovereignty, honor their sense of independence? Can I give them the room and the space to find their own feet and stand on their own feet instead of running them down? So instead of criticizing them, how often do I compliment them? In a normal day, if we just look at how many times we criticize somebody and how many times we give them an authentic, heartfelt compliment, you will be surprised at how long that first list is and how short, or maybe there's nothing on the compliment side. Can we reverse that pattern? Can we start complimenting people a lot more than we are criticizing people? And very often we also have this feeling that I am a very direct person. I'll say it as it comes up and that makes me authentic. No, that doesn't. That is being insensitive to others. I think it's important for us to be very aware and conscious of what is the impact that I am having on other people. That is very important because that is what is going to make me feel one with them. That is what is going to develop the virtue of compassion in me. So let's just keep this as a daily reminder for ourselves. Instead of competing, am I going to collaborate? Instead of criticizing, am I going to compliment? Instead of comparing, they have so much and I don't have this, am I going to be inspired by other people's successes? Am I going to learn from them? If I know something better, can I teach someone? If something knows something better than me, or they have achieved something better than me, can I make them my mentor of sorts? Can I learn and grow through observation of their behaviors and successes? So all of these things are just going to change our social behavior, our social intelligence, make us way more empathic and compassionate towards others. As we practice these altered behaviors, what is going to happen is that there's going to be the unlearning in the brain. Your neurons will start firing in new ways. Neuroplasticity will start occurring. This third seat of the soul that I spoke of, the neocortex, is going to grow. And when that grows, we will spontaneously and naturally become more loving, more compassionate, less fearful, and more in the image of God. And this brings me now to the final and the seventh karma, which is the Sankalpa karma. It is the karma of remembrance. When a fetus is in the mother's womb, waiting for those tormenting 9 months and the birthing process, it prays every single day that when I am born into this life, I am going to do all the rightful things. I am going to do the right karma. I'm going to burn my past karma. It makes that vow to itself because it knows that the life that it is incarnating into, the Earth planet, is not an easy planet. It is a planet of redemption. And so life for every soul incarnating here, that soul knows it's going to be a difficult life. It may appear that some people have better lives and some people have worse lives, but for that individual, its life experience is always complicated. Its life experience always requires courage and tenacity. So that soul knows that it's entering into a difficult life, and it prays ardently to do all the right things so that it can break free from this cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. And yet, by the time a child is 7 years of age, it starts behaving like all other people around who have got lost into the hypnotic spell of human existence, of everyday life, of mechanical living. You eat, sleep, breathe, go to work. You just do the mechanical things. One day passes, you wake up another day. You're not interested in going into the depths of why I'm here or all these philosophical debates. Most people don't want to have them. They think it's too cumbersome, it's too intense. And so they never contemplate life and death. They never contemplate why they were born or what they're here to do. It just seems like, oh, we just landed here and let's live this life. And, one fine day we wake up and life will be over and that's it. But that's not it. We're here for a reason. How can we remember that purpose and that reason every single day? Is by contemplating, how do I want to live today so that when death arrives, I can be fearless. When death arrives, that last dying thought is a sattvic thought. That I am ready to give up the attachment to the body and to the family and to everything that I've lived here. How do I prepare for that moment? Now we know that that dying thought and that dying experience is going to determine my experience in the afterlife and also where and how I incarnate in my next incarnation. It is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And it is important, therefore, that we prepare for that eventuality right through our lives. It's like saying that you cannot learn how to drive when you are in an accident. You have to know how to drive before you can get at the wheel and prevent an accident. Similarly, you have to learn how to face that final moment, how to gather your sattvic karmas through life, how to gather the right intention, how to do the inner work and prepare for that last moment. Another interesting thing is that people think that once you die, everything is over and you start over again, not realizing that when you die, you just drop your physical body and your etheric body, but your emotional, mental, and causal bodies travel with the soul into the afterlife. What does this mean? Every challenge, every difficult emotion, every difficult experience that you avoided by repressing it or by escaping it or by avoiding it, you are going to face it in its full force in the afterlife, because you do not have the personality or the coping mechanisms which allowed you to repress it while you were in the physical body. And so if you want to avoid all of the difficulties and the terror of the afterlife, it is very important that we find the courage to deal with it while we still have the opportunity in the bodies. Secondly, karma can only be redeemed when we are in the body. Karma cannot be redeemed in the soul state. So this is the opportunity. Every single day, can we remember we are here to build a positive suvasanas, a positive tendencies. We are here to build a purity. We are here to let go of our darkness. And as a last note, before I end my sharing, I'd like to talk about two very cute little terms which can serve as daily reminders to us, even if we don't remember anything else that I have spoken of. But if we can remember Shreya Karma and Preya Karma. So what are these two things? Shreya Karma is bitter now, sweet later. Preya Karma is sweet now, bitter later. Let me explain this briefly. So let's say that I am feeling provoked or angry at somebody, maybe my wife or maybe my children or somebody, and I feel I am right to feel angry at them, and I act it out. I actually say mean things and rude things in the spur of the moment. What I've done is I have practiced Preya Karma. I am feeling comforted and contented. In that moment, I feel relief because I've got it off my chest. I've said those things. But what I don't realize is I've increased my burden of karma. I have caused them hurt. I have caused my own physiology hurt because the anger is going to send the cortisol through my body and it's going to damage my body organs. I have destroyed the ecosystem. I have negatively affected the relationships. And going forward, maybe I'm going to feel guilty and remorseful about it also. So you can see in the moment, it felt like, okay, easy and comfortable. But in the long term, it was bitter. The opposite is Shreya Karma. I'm feeling very provoked. I'm feeling very angry right now, but I bite my tongue. I hold it in. I walk away. I sit with myself. I process my feeling. And I only come back and talk to them lovingly later when I've addressed the storm within myself. That is Shreya Karma. That is a responsible thing to do. That is me reducing not just my dark karma or my poor karma, it is also cultivating the qualities of compassion. It is cultivating vulnerability. It is cultivating tolerance, forbearance, fortitude. So many things are happening in that moment. It is also rewiring my brain so the next time I will not get so angry so easily. It'll be easier for me not to be angry. So as you can see, if every day I simply just wake up in the day and I pray to perform more sweet Shreya Karma and less harmful Preya Karma, which preys upon our soul, our mind, our bodies, then we can hope to lead more fulfilling lives, happier lives, and we can also evolve and grow and fulfill the purpose that we came into this incarnation for. That is all Thank you very much for hearing me. And I'm ready to take any questions that the audience may have today.
Thank you, ma'am. That was such a powerful session. And I'm sure I'm getting goosebumps as I speak, and I'm sure a lot of people would have got, we are already getting feedback from the audience that it's an excellent session. And I'll request people to, put your questions on the chat. But before that, I'm just putting out a feedback form. It'll take less than a minute. Please share your feedback, and then we will, in a minute's time, we will start accepting questions. And once again, thank you very much, Suzy ma'am.
You're very welcome, Ashish.
We have time. This Google form will take less than a minute for you to fill. Please click on the link that we have shared in the chat, and please share your feedback with us. And post that, we will open up the session for Q&A.
Ashish, good afternoon.
Yeah.
This is Partho.
Yes, Partho.
A question for Suzy ma'am. If she can repeat the name of the two gentlemen she had referred to. Rene Brown is one name.
No.
What is the second name?
So the first is a lady. She's Brené, B-R-E-N-E-B-R-O-W-N. Brené Brown. She is a shame and vulnerability researcher. And the second one, there are a lot of, you can see her videos also on YouTube. And there is a talk on the Call to Courage on Netflix. Also, there is a film on Netflix by her. And the second gentleman was Dr. Gabor, G-A-B-O-R, Mate, M-A-T-E.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Dr. Suzy. I have listened to some of the videos by Dr. Brené Brown, and they're so powerful. Her talk on vulnerability was one of the life-changing things for me. So I completely understand where you're coming from. There's a request, and it's up to you, ma'am, to accept or not address it, which is, would you like to share about your NDE?
Yes, why not? I will just briefly talk about it because if we want to really discuss the topic at length, it's going to take another session to do that. But to very briefly answer that question, we were in this car crash and my husband was at the wheel. I was on the co-passenger seat, and the entire, it was dark. Apparently these crashes were set up routinely. They would come and park a tractor trolley in the middle of the road and on a highway, and we crashed into it head on at high speed at about 90 kilometers per hour. And I had the whole windshield in my face. I had parts of my head. I mean, you could see this car quite clearly. I was cut down right to my bone. And in that moment, what I experienced was very different from what my reality was, because I had been having, we were returning from Missouri to Delhi, and I had a throbbing headache. The interesting thing was that I had spent 2 hours sitting at the Shivji Baba temple in Dehradun before we started, because the car had actually broken down. I was sitting there praying and in meditation. And then right through the drive, because I had a throbbing headache, we were going through a forest area, and strangely enough, on the barks of all those trees, I started seeing the mantra Om Sai Ram. And I started chanting it, and I had fallen asleep chanting it. That's when the crash happened. It was very interesting because when I was taken out of the car, I believed the NDE, incidentally, somebody asked, was a near-death experience. I believed that I got out of the car myself, but I'm told by my husband that they had to literally break the windows and doors and pull me out of the car. My experience was very different. Suddenly all pain had ended. I was floating very light and moving at very high speed into something which was similar to a tunnel kind of experience. And there was an immense lightness and sense of freedom. The best I can describe it as is being in soul state, totally liberated. And yet there was, after being in that state for what I call a timeless state, there was a loud voice that reached me saying, "Mera bachcha kahan hai?" And in that moment, there was something that sucked my soul right back. In a flash of a second, I was back in my body and I was hurting and I was in deep pain. And it was very, very traumatic to be back in the body. And mind you, for that entire period post that incident, which took about 6 months of very, very difficult healing, I couldn't bear to be in my body. I would cry every day and say, this body feels like a prison, because I had just experienced what it was to be outside of the body or to be in that soul state. Interestingly, my daughter had actually seen my soul leaving the body, and she talks about how the bus had arrived and she saw there were other souls on the bus and that my name had been called out and I had stepped onto the bus, and she'd seen me moving away, but she didn't see me re-entering my body. So it was also very traumatic for her, because for almost 8 weeks after that event, she avoided me completely. She thought I was a walk-in and I wasn't her mother. And that was another interesting story about how finally there was this moment of resolution when her soul connected back with mine, and we found that we were actually mother and child again. So I hope that briefly answers the question about the NDE. And of course, it had a very deep impact on me and my states thereafter, a huge amount of learning. The only interesting thing is that I had already given up my career and embraced the spiritual path very deeply. And usually people have such life-altering experiences and they choose the spiritual path. For me, it was the reverse. I learned that I couldn't abandon life and start meditating 8 hours a day, which I was prior to that accident. I engaged back with life and I started doing the work with the darkness on the planet, with myself, within myself, and helping other people. And that really became the reason why I started working so intensely with the difficulties that people have and trying to bring light to them.
Awesome, and we are getting very good feedback. People are saying it's a superb session, explained in a simple manner, and people could, really connect with you when you speak. So that is another feedback that we have got. Deep is sharing that is such a powerful session, and a lot of learnings from there. So people are really connecting with what you're saying, ma'am.
Thank you.
Friends, please keep the questions coming in. We have another 2-3 minutes before we close. And a lot of people have requested for the recording of the session. So I'm sharing with you the YouTube link where the recording of the session will be put up. So please like the YouTube channel, and that way you can stay connected.
Okay, I can see Prince Gera's asking a question, should it be peace or happiness? And I think it should be both. Why do we have to have a scarcity mentality and have just peace and happiness, one or the other? I think we should strive to be happy every single day. We should strive to be joyful. We should strive to be happy. And in fact, I feel very strongly that happiness is the fourth intelligence. This has been revealed to me during my meditations during this pandemic, that we are familiar with IQ, we are familiar with emotional intelligence and social intelligence, but the fourth kind of intelligence is happiness. It's not something that happens to us, it's something that we build, and we can choose to be happy in every moment. That is also the choice of an awakened soul. How do I want to experience this moment? Can I choose to do it in a happier, more mindful way? Or do I want to be miserable?
Ma'am, thanks for responding to that one. There's another question from Balraj sir on how should we handle this pandemic state.
I think the pandemic state is at a collective level. I started out by saying that at a collective level, people were avoiding these tough questions. This is a mass awakening phenomena. Any time that the whole globe is involved, it is a mass awakening occurring for every person who chooses to wake up, who chooses to develop a daily practice. This is the reason I said that I did not feel ready to talk about the 7 karma codes before, but this time when Ashish reached out to me, something within me said, this is the right time, because this is when you can do your inner work. I think all of us are vulnerable enough with the pandemic. All of us have access to our suffering. All of us are experiencing that suffering. Every day people are worried about loss of lives, loss of their work, loss of everything else. This is the time when you need to ask yourself the question, what do I really value? What do I really value? How attached am I to various things? How do I develop that degree of detachment from all the things that are hurting me? Even detaching from suffering, unfortunately, we are so identified with our suffering. How many days, how many times in a day are you talking about how terrible the pandemic is? How badly it has impacted your career, how badly it has impacted your work situation. How much time are you spending every single day on positive conversations, on actually curating something powerful? Let me just share with you how I have dealt with this pandemic, because I always believe that I like to lead by example. In this pandemic, I have created so much video material that can help people across the globe. Every time I encountered somebody was having a problem, I took the opportunity to shoot a YouTube video to spread the message so that I could reach more and more people. I have taken the opportunity to go back to my singing, which I hadn't done in 30 years. And I find that it brings me immense amount of joy and peace. So every time I'm feeling negative or feeling hurt or feeling upset or something troubles me, I just go and I sing and I connect back with that purity. I connect back with my sattva. So how often are you centering back? Do you have a daily practice of inner work? Are you centering back repeatedly? That is very important. And I just saw that somebody had mentioned that they missed what the TACT, T-A-C-T acronym stood for. The TACT is something that we use for building strong relationships. The T stands for transparency, being transparent in your relationships, not keeping things in your mind and expecting the other to read your mind, being very open and very transparent in a very loving way, asking for your needs to be met, in a very loving way, resolving conflicts. The A stands for acts, loving acts that you perform. What are the little things, acts of service that you perform for each other? The C is keep your communication open, keep talking, engaging, don't brush things under the carpet, don't think that they'll get resolved without you actually going back and resolving them. You need to keep speaking to each other. And the last T is continuously rebuilding trust. Trust can get broken very easily. It's like glass that gets shattered. So one bad experience, one argument, and you'll say, I'm never going to trust this person again. But no, be vulnerable. Go back, trust that person again. You practice your inner work. If your inner state, your microcosm experience changes, the law of attraction will bring to you powerfully good experiences. In fact, every experience that is coming at you is a feedback system from the universe about how much work you've actually done on your inside. So very important that you keep retrusting and rebuilding that trust levels, of course, with safe boundaries. If you find that somebody is violating you, then you've got to put that boundary and very lovingly have that conversation and say, I'm feeling violated. And I would request you to please honor these few things about me. Read the book. I think the chapter on relationships will give you many, many tips. What I have shared with you today is a interpretation of the application of the 7 codes. And I think Ashish has read the book. The book has enormous depth and a lot of ideas that you can work with. So I would urge my readers to just, the book is available online, either from Amazon or Flipkart. And from the Zen Publications website itself, you can order it and you can just read it. It's also available as an ebook version if you want to use the Kindle version.
Thank you, ma'am. We have got a feedback from Hemendra sir. He says this is the most powerful session that he has attended in his entire life. So obviously, you know, we can see that this is having a great impact. We also have another feedback that inspirational session, understanding the karma code and its impact on our life and relationships. Indrani says, thank you, Suzy and Ashish. That was insightful. Law of attraction also, you know, some
Naveen Jain just asked what is the name of the book. The book is called Seven Karma Codes Heal the Storm Within by Suzy Singh. And I would also urge our viewers here that if you want to keep receiving insights, clarity, and answers to some of life's complex problems, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Suzy Singh YouTube channel. You'll keep every week I upload maybe 1 or 2 videos that address some of the issues that we face in our relationships, in our life, in our work situations that can help you so that I can keep reaching out to you, even though I may not know you personally. My intent and my desire is to keep helping and supporting you in whatever manner that I can.
So ma'am is very active on social media. She's got a Facebook account, LinkedIn account, Instagram account, and a YouTube account. So you can please look her up and you know, you can find her. She's also got a website, suzyheals.com. I'll put it out for your ready reference, and that's another place you can connect with her. Thanks, Nagraj. Ma'am, we are, I understand this is over an hour. Just want to check with you because the comments and questions are coming. Is it okay if we extend by 5-10 minutes?
Absolutely. Please do. I'm here for everyone.
Thank you. So another maybe 5, 9, 10 minutes, we will extend.
Certainly.
Take any questions or comments that you have.
I know it can sometimes become difficult to ask questions in an open forum. And so, Ashish, in case you can share my email ID, it's suzyhealsme@gmail.com. If somebody has something really challenging and conflicting that they're seeking an answer to, they can also mail me if they're not feeling comfortable enough to ask in an open forum.
We have also pasted the link of the Amazon where the ma'am's book is available. So you can go and look up the book there. And I've also shared ma'am's email ID. You can feel free to connect with her.
And I'd just like to say, in case you find that the book is out of stock, because the books were out of stock yesterday when I had checked, and my publisher is refilling them, just check them in the next couple of days and you will receive the book.
Sure.
I also wanted to share, while we are waiting for the questions, with our viewers who are still with us, that the book has recently been launched in Italy, the Italian edition also.
Wow.
And it has received very good response. It is in the top 50 most read books in Italy right now. And I feel really blessed by the universe because to be there to support our Italian brothers and sisters at a time when they've really been hit very badly by the pandemic. It was almost like, I think, a big blessing and an opportunity to serve people on the planet.
Ma'am, the book is available and the link has also been shared on the WhatsApp groups.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm sure you know, a lot of people are going to take this opportunity to read the book now.
Okay, so there are a couple of questions coming up, I think, but they all came up so quickly that I wasn't able to read them. Ashish?
I'll read it out for you, ma'am. Prince Gera asks, ma'am, Ayush, this side, I get overwhelmed when I see the pain of other people. It disturbs me a lot.
Yes, so I think that is the empathy arising, and what it clearly indicates is that this person has not really dealt with their own emotions. And what happens is that their pain is triggering the repressed emotions in this individual. So you're feeling not just their pain, but your unresolved pain also. And I would really urge you, don't escape it. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel sad. There are enough times during this pandemic when I've cried like a little baby, and my question has been, the reason for my crying is there's so much suffering on the planet. Why have we come to this situation? But be like the child. You feel sadness, cry. And when you've cried it all out and when you've processed and worked with your emotions, you'll be happy again because you've dealt with it in a responsible way. So don't shy away from difficult emotions. That is the primary thing. You're being touched. You should feel blessed that you have the ability to be empathic, to be moved by their pain. It is a very good thing. So work with it. Just process more intensely.
That's a valuable insight, ma'am. Uh, we also have a question. How can we overcome a situation when we feel very low and demotivated and not being loved?
Yes, so that can be very hurtful because somewhere we start believing that our own self-worth is affected. And here the judgment is turned inwards. We have to examine our beliefs. It's our belief systems that make us feel that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I am not worthy of love. And that is the reason the law of attraction is bringing that experience of you not being loved. So it is important for you to excavate those beliefs in you. I have a couple of films, videos on my channel, and I think this individual should see those. The playlist on self-worth and then the playlist on self-love. I think there are about 6 films between these two playlists. If they watch them, they will find the answers on how to actually work with each one of these problems. And if they can address them, they will find that they will be able to go back to the person who is they feel unloved by and have that difficult conversation. There's also a video on that. How to have that difficult conversation where you can give the feedback that I'm feeling unloved, and how you can ask for, can you please do ABC for me? Because that'll make me feel so much better. So going back to the TACT, if you want to strengthen your relationships, are you being transparent? Are you doing acts of service? Are you complaining? Are you committing the 3 errors? Those are the things to ask yourself. Just re-listen to the recording of this video, apply it to your current situation. And I think from this session itself, you can excavate and curate a lot of learnings, apply them, and I am confident you will find relief in that experience.
Thanks. I think a lot of people will benefit with that insight, ma'am. We have a question from Balraj sir. Thinking that this too also shall pass, which is to say that this is impermanent. Is that a right way to approach this pandemic? Will thinking like this, that this is impermanent, this is anitya, this too shall pass, will help us in dealing with this pandemic?
I don't think we are dealing with it. We're escaping it by doing that. It's a very passive approach. It's an approach which says, I am not willing to get into the ring. I'm going to sit on the stands and watch from the outside. And I'm really saying this is the time. The whole session today was that how can I do the work on myself? Because please, let's understand this. We are all interconnected. The universe works on the principle of interconnectedness. Right now, there is an immense amount of hopelessness, despondency on the planet, a lot of fear on the planet. And this is countered by those of us who are holding up the experience of joy and positivity. So are you going to be the person who is going to increase the burden of despondency on the planet? Are you going to be the person who says, I don't care, it's not my problem, and when it passes, I will jump back into this game called life? Or are you going to be the person who is going to say, every single day of this pandemic, I am going to do something useful for myself, for my family, for the world at large, and doing it right from the place where you're sitting? There is no difference between you and me. If I can sit in my home and if I can create, so I haven't stepped out of my the main door of my house in these last 3 months. And yet I have been able to reach out to the world in a way larger way than I've ever done before. So I'm urging you all to do that. Call up your friends, speak to people, actively support them. Maybe somebody else is depressed, just talk to them. Offer them your listening, offer them your love, your inspiration, your support. Maybe you're watching a lot of inspirational things like this. You're here, you've learned something. Share it with someone who you think needs it. Engage in the process. Add to the quantum of light on the planet right now. So if you're just saying this too will pass, it means I don't want to engage with this. But make it personal. Make it personal. Which side are you on, light or darkness? And I'm hoping and urging each one of you to choose being on the side of light, on the side which says, I want to be loving, I want to be empathic, I want to be compassionate, I want to do something meaningful, because that will change not just my karma, it will change the collective consciousness on the planet.
Thanks, ma'am. There is a request, on elaborating on tact once more. Would you like to do
Yes.
that, or maybe the person could look at the recording later? Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat it one last time. T for transparency, A for acts, loving acts of service, C for keep the communication alive and flowing, and T for keep rebuilding trust after every breakdown with strong boundaries.
Thank you for sharing that, ma'am. And I understand you may have lots of questions still, but we've exceeded the extended timeline also. I request you, I have shared Suzy ma'am's email ID. You can connect with her if you have any more questions. I have shared the link to our WhatsApp group where you can connect with us and where we will post details of all the upcoming sessions. Somebody wanted to know whether we are going to have any session tomorrow on the occasion of Guru Purnima, but no, we don't have any session tomorrow. Guru Purnima is being celebrated today and tomorrow. So today is the occasion we are celebrating, and we are blessed to have Suzy ma'am with us. I have also put out the links to our Facebook page and YouTube page. So please connect with us, and that's where the recording of the sessions will be available. And I would like to take this opportunity to formally thank Suzy ma'am once again for joining us. I'm sure everybody had lots of takeaways, ma'am. And for me, there were a couple of important ones which resonated. One is, not settle accounts, don't settle scores. And that is an important one. Another one which you said about Sangha code, that we should not be direct and insensitive. We should evaluate the impact which we have. Because I worked in multinational companies many years where the environment was very cutthroat, and the focus was on getting things done, not bothering what the result is, how people are feeling. And we used to take pride in being very, very direct. And now I realize that maybe I was very insensitive to people, and maybe I should have been a little bit more sensitive. So that was another one. And I think the point about being sattvic our thoughts, preparing for the last moment and preparing for the life and the transition. I think there are many, many valuable inputs for me. And I urge everyone to pick up the book and read it and stay connected with us. And thank you very much, Suzy ma'am. Thank you everyone for participating in this. Happy Purnima. May you find light. May you stay happy. May you stay peaceful. May you stay calm. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for having me here, Ashish.
Thank you, ma'am.